friend, and welcome to the study. I have something very special for you today, so I'm glad you came. Do you see this map? It's the land of make-believe by an author in the early 20th century. You can see all of the interesting things there: a castle, waterfalls, temples, sea creatures. We'll look at all of that. We've also got the Odyssey and a few more surprises for today, all taking you to the land of dreams, where we're going to go today. We start, as all journeys to dreamland should start, with a nice, warm, relaxing cup of tea. I brought this to the study today, especially for you. It's from our favorite tea merchant, Frère, Paris. Comes with this lovely satin ribbon and gold wrapping paper. We're going to have lots of lovely sounds today. Do you remember when we had a video about the French East India Company and talked about tea? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Here we see the gardens of the Palace of Versailles. Aromatic tea infusion called Versailles. Ville de Versailles collection. Let's see if this comes off easily. No, I think I will use some little scissors for that. These ones are shaped like a crane, opening its beak. Get its beak under the box there. It's not very easy. These are the parts of the video that are a bit difficult to film if I want to do something delicate just letting the bird. Might have to get a craft knife. Yes, I think a craft knife would be better. We'll put our bird aside. There. That's a funny sound too. There, quickly and easily, before we go off to dreamland. Look at that. Tea and Versailles. Des Seigneurs. And there I have a cup of water ready for this lovely tea. And you can see the whole leaves there and the flowers that are there for the aroma. You can see that there like that. A very delicate smell, lovely aroma. And you can see the color changing right away. Look at that. There's our Earl Grey, des Seigneurs. Now prepare to be transported. We're going to look at the land of dreams of Odysseus, of Greek mythology, of Ovid, and of the late Art Nouveau and the Great War, World War I. We'll do some writing. We'll do a little bit of drawing and painting, maps and text reading. So sip your lovely warm tea. Get comfortable. And let's begin. As we sleep and relax between wake and sleep, deep sleep, is this dream world. A nebulous, mysterious world of thoughts and stories. Sometimes a very warm and familiar world, sometimes adventurous. In Greek mythology, dreams were associated with the underworld, where oftentimes adventurers led and heroes experienced dark and nebulous interludes. Dreams were never clearly understood in the ancient world, and truly even now, aspects of dreams still remain a mystery. The Victorians and Edwardians, certainly with their dark post-romanticist imagery, had a wonderful time depicting them in stories and illustrations. We are going to go through all of these land of dreams, bit by bit. And we're going to start ancient Greece. The location of the land of dreams, Demos Oneiron, in the Greek underworld, we can see in Homer's Odyssey. The location of the land is past the streams of Okeanos, the world-encircling river, and the gates of the sun, close to the fields of Asphodel, where the spirits of the dead reside. The Oneiroi are personifications of dreams. They deliver messages to mortals in their sleep, just as Alcyone and Seiche. Euripides described them as deities of the underworld that had black wings of the night. These Oneiroi dwell on the dark shores of the Western Ocean. Penelope in the Odyssey talks about two shadowy gates of the dreams, the gate of polished horn through which pass truthful dreams, and the gate of sawn ivory through which come dreams that are deceitful and have no fulfillment. Not only Homer, but Plato, Euripides, and Virgil all mention this land of dreams of the underworld. In the Theogony, this tribe of dreams is said to have been descended from Nyx, and were the brothers of Hypnos, Thanatos, and also Nemesis, Eris, Moros, Care, Momos, Oasis, and Charis, all abstract personifications of night, Nyx, doom, destiny, death, sleep, pain, retribution, and discord. In Ovid, it is Somnus, from the Greek hypnos, a sleepy and slothful deity who resides in the underworld inside of a silent and foggy cave that the sun's rays cannot reach. It is near the river Lete and is surrounded by fields of poppies and herbs. These juices would spread over the earth during the night, sending humans to sleep. The 1,000 dream deities, or Somnia, were sons of Somnus, flying about him in all directions, taking up unsubstantial forms and various shapes. Let's look at the Odyssey. We find in the last book a piece. This is where, after the return to Ithaca, all of the suitors of Penelope, the ones who were spending all of the money and trying to convince her to do the wrong thing, are chased into the underworld by the ghosts of the suitors. And we get a nice description here. Now Selenian Hermes called away the suitors' ghosts, holding firm in his hand the wand of fine pure gold that enchants the eyes of men wherever Hermes wants or wakes us up from sleep. With a wave of this, he stirred and led them on, and the ghosts trailed after with high, thin cries as bats cry in the depth of a dark, haunted cavern, shrilling, flittering, wild when one drops from the chain, slipped from the rock face, while the rest cling tight. So with their high, thin cries, the ghosts flocked now, and Hermes, the healer, led them on, and down the dank, mouldering paths, and past the ocean's streams. Here we can have a look at this that we've drawn. It's just a little bit stylized, so we use our imagination a bit. Past the ocean streams they went, and past the white rock and the sun's western gates, and past the land of dreams, and soon reached the fields of Asphodel, where the dead, the burnt-out wraiths of mortals make their home. There they found the ghosts of Peleus' son Achilles, Patroclus, fearless Antilochus, and great Ajax too. The first in stature, first in build and bearing, of all the Argive after Peleus' matchless son. And there we have a little bit of the geography of the underworld and a mention of the land of dreams. Oneron. Now we turn to Ovid. So we'll do a little Latin. We have another description of the land of dreams in Ovid's Alcyone and Say, where Morpheus takes the form of the dead Say and comes to Alcyone in her dream to send her a message about his death. As I write the Latin, I will read the English to you, so we're not going to do grammar or translation today. We're just going to dream away. Iris put on her cloak of 1,000 years, and, trailing across the sky in a rainbow curve, she sought the cloud-concealed palace of the King of Sleep. Near the land of the Cimmerians, there's a deep recess within a hollow mountain, the home and chamber of sluggish sleep. Phoebus can never enter there with his rising noontide or setting rays. Clouds of vapor breathe forth from the earth, and dusky twilight shadows. There no wakeful crested cock with his loud crowing summons the dawn. No watchdog breaks the deep silence with his baying, or goose more watchful than the dog. There is no sound of wild beast or cattle, of branches rustling in the breeze, no clamorous tongues of men. There mute silence dwells. But from the bottom of follows the stream of Leyte, whose waves, gently murmuring over the gravelly bed, invite to slumber. Before the cavern's entrance, abundant poppies bloom, and countless herbs, from whose juices dewy night distills sleep, and spreads its influence over the darkened lands. There is no door in all the house, lest some turning hinge should creak. No guardian on the threshold, but in the cavern's central space there is a high couch of ebony, downy soft, black-hued, spread with a dusky coverlet. There lies the god himself, his limbs relaxed in languorous repose. All around him, on all sides, lie empty dream shapes, mimicking many forms, many as ears of grain in harvest time, as leaves upon the trees, as sands cast on the shore. We come to the Victorian Age. The post-Napoleonic War age in Europe. Neo-Gothic, where the Brothers Grimm being linguists and artists and collectors of folk tales, inspired the imaginations of literature and art in these dark myths. And here we have some drawings of Arthur Rackham, the early 20th century. These dark lands of dreams, of bygone days, ages past. Images of fairies, spirits, trolls, giants, all manner of fantasy. This is a world not only of childhood stories, but also of dangers and adventures, of friendships, overcoming adversity, of a fantasy world in the imagination, in the psyche. This one, a map by the author Hess, about the nursery rhymes and world of make-believe. we can see that as we look at the map, the ancient map of Fairyland by Bernard Slay. Here we have his guide to the map of Fairyland, and there is our fae there, with a shamrock and a key. Designed and written by Bernard Slay, London, Sidgwick and Jackson, and someone's written 1918. And there's some handwriting where they've given it. And here we have the Hills of Dreams. There's some castles there. It's a beautiful woodcut. The river crossing, very much like the ancient world. Guardians over a bridge. Look at his beautiful woodcut there. We have figures flying through the dark. Castles and trees in the distance. I will put out for all the land the starlight passes by, and steer my boat among the clouds, and sail along the sky. As we look at Slay's map, I will read some of this to you from his introduction, which I think is quite beautiful. In the heart of every child is hidden away a little golden key which unlocks the door of a silent, clean-swept room full of changing lights and mystic shadows. There every child that is born into the world enters at times to gaze eagerly upon the one great window, pictured with ancient legends and glowing with many colors, amber and scarlet, lapis blues and strange greens, and it is written in many places with curious letters of silver upon black and black upon silver about these charmed magic casements opening on the foam of perilous seas in fancy lands forlorn. There lingers a faint, plaintive music, as of far-away organ pipes, of whispering harps, and the sighing of wind amongst the reeds. You will think at times it was but the droning of bees in the clover field, or the fall of surf upon some long white beach. It is always there, rising, swelling, dying away in a long, pulsing, voiceless harmony, and through the jeweled panes the light changes continually, from that of a pale, cold starshine to the white glory of unclouded moons, and again to the rich warmth of an eastern sun. Always, too, there is the fragrance of enchanted winds, a breathless scent that is like the fading memory of all the flowers that have raised their glad faces to the sun and closed them softly beneath the evening star. At one time or another of its life, every child that is born of woman sets trembling fingers to open the wide flashing casements, to stand gazing, awed and silent, upon a sea and sky of gold and crimson, full of winged forms grey against its summer radiance. They see the clear sands piled up against the outer wall, and many boats with little waves breaking and lapping against their painted gunwales, waiting always to take their willing travellers to the distant gates of ivory. Some there be who venture forth, crossing the casement ledge, step into a new world, breathing fearlessly its unaccustomed air, enter some dainty carven shallop and set forth to those rainbow-guarded shores, so desired of all the race of men. Nameless, yet bearing many love-given names, land of heart's desire, the fortunate isles, islands of the blessed, dear to youth and age alike, their gateways lie beneath the pearl-fringed arch of the world rainbow, guarded by storm and tempest, by whirlpools and mighty labyrinths of moving water. Stout is the heart that faces these dangers, daring the soul that braves these troubled seas, to enter at last the hidden entrance to the harbor of dreamland. So, for the use and guidance of future explorers, it has been thought well to make some slight survey of the available paths in this land, where some tracks, though well-trodden and seemingly familiar, yet vanish and reappear, and vanish again in bewildering fashion, baffling and discouraging even to the most earnest traveler. The compass is, however, always available, and should be of the utmost service, always bearing in mind that distances here are measured by thoughts. One thought in fairyland equals 500 of our miles. There are landing places at various points, some safe and others highly dangerous. Cockpedal Cape and Honeymouth Cave are favorite points for the more adventurous, and for those who would avoid the crowded, bustling Dreamland Harbor, where you wait long to obtain your passport stamped and sealed, and to have your eyes touched with the magic ointment. If any other landing is made, these safeguards have to be dispensed with, and great caution is therefore necessary. For you may be frozen into an ice statue when past the bridge of Demeter. You may become one of the lost children of Never Never Land. You may even, if the wind be in the wrong direction, get blown up the Faerie Firth and swallowed by the Laidly Worm. His neck can stretch across the Paris village, so you would have little chance there. I know of one child who would have her own way, and she began this journey. They caught her and popped her into a hazelnut shell, and there she stayed for 258.5 years. She managed to escape back to the world again, but she had someone else's soul inside her, and one of the cross-grained, bothering sort too. You couldn't call her a changeling, because she had her own body, so no one could make anything of it at all. However, if you really prefer this way of entering fairyland, you can always obtain a guide, for there are many to be met with about the jetties and landing stages. But remember that without the magic ointment, it is difficult to choose between a good and an evil fairy. I have seen a dainty elf-maid, grey-eyed, tawny-haired, and honey-sweet, change in a flash of temper into a haggard, grinning old witch, while a squinting, hare-lipped goblin proved a most faithful leader, and before we parted, turned into a handsome, courteous prince of the lineage of King Thrushbeard. There is one guide I always engage. He is called Fridolin. He is an hermaphrodite, neither girl nor boy, so I called him It. It is about 6.5 inches high, but, to be more sociable, often jumps up to 5 or 6 or even 12 feet high. It has grey gold hair like winter moss, lovely twinkly eyes, and knows offers every place and fairy person you can possibly wish to see. Its only charge for its services is a mortal kiss or two. It lives in the troll's hut over Elfrin Bridge, the third hut going inland. Once your guide is secured, the tour of the island of the east of the Great Wall is thrilling and glorious undertaking. But what you will see will depend upon your sympathy with the little people, and with those stronger, beautiful spirits of Greek lore and medieval romance. These are real indeed to the eyes of faith, but from the unbeliever they hide remorselessly, showing themselves as mere trees and stones, rocks and rippling streams, and wild flowers where you and I and all of the faithful will be enchanted with green-haired dryads, with singing, swaying oreads, filmy clothed with wistful fairy maids of wood and forest, of stream and splashing fountain. Through shining glades of Lyonesse, knights will meet you riding down from Avalon to chat with Perseus or with Hercules, to run hopeless races with the shaggy centaur, or to listen safely to the sirens singing over peaceful waters, and the sea call of the mermaids, ahoy-ah, ahoy-ah, a strange, sweet music, and it sets your heart beating fast for you know not what. Go if you can, always in the early spring, for then the whole land is blushing with wild roses, shimmering with golden thornless broom, or white with wild waving lilies. The waterways are safer too, the dangerous western currents going to sleep, and leaving the quiet seas as peaceful as a mountain tarn. You will find the best routes marked out with lines, as red and as fine as the silken clue that guided Theseus through his Cretan labyrinth. If you stray not from the path, you too will be as safe. And so, farewell, until that day of days when you and I may meet together there. And at the end, he has, for the further use of those who may be curious as to the lives and doings of dwellers in this country, a list he has given of books easily obtainable, the writers of which have travelled across the mountains and plains of dreamland, returning to record their experiences in the world of men. You have a list of all of the characters and places, and the books in which they might be found. Valhalla, Asgard, Oberon, Titania, Puck, Asgard and the Norse heroes, Midsummer Night's Dream, Annals of Fairyland, the Holy Grail, King Arthur and his knights, Excalibur, Camelot, Joyeux Garde, Garbenek, Lyonesse, Sarras, Solomon and the Sacred Spindles, from Morte d'Arthur by Thomas Mallory, Idylls of the King by Tennyson and Poems of William Morris, Courage and Owen and Anfanc, the Mabinogion, the wonderful book of Welsh tales, Bluebirds from the Bluebird by M. Maeterlinck, Flower Fairies in the Fantast of G. MacDonald, Dwarfs, Goblins, Gnomes and Elves, Warlocks and Witches from The Princess and Curdie and Other Fairy Stories by George MacDonald, The Bridge of Roc's Eggs, Shagpat, The Sword, Kilmeny, Elfinmere, The Rock, St. Brendan's Isle, Titurel, Parsif, Sauvin, Kundry, Fleurami, and the Venusberg. Fairy mythology, The Shaving of the Shagpat by George Meredith, Elfin music by the Canterbury Poets, and the Arabian Nights, of course, and Curious Myths of the Middle Ages by Baring Gould. Although some of those we have read in their originals here in the study. We have some more here. The Imp Tree, the Laidly Worm, and Leprechauns from Fairy Gold by Everyman Press. And of course Mother Goose's Nursery Rhymes, the Book of Nursery Rhymes by Birmingham School Publishers. All Hallows, A Farm in Fairyland by Lawrence Hausman, Chaponel and All Hallows. And then we have Perseus and all the Greek myths and stories. Here, Sleigh Lists, The Heroes by Charles Kingsley, The Wonder Book of Nathaniel Hawthorne, Age of Fables by Thomas Bulfinch, and then of course Ondine de la Motte Fouquet, Tom Tit-Tot, Tom Thumb, Soul Cages, Peace Pool, Mr. Grimes, all of these English fairy and folk tales and Irish fairy and folk tales. Cousin Cramchild, Shiny Wall. And then we have Farming in Atlantis from Five Children and It, The Phoenix and the Carpet, The Book of Dragons, all by E. Nesbit, and Peter and the Wolf. And of course, John Barry, Peter Pan and Wendy, in Kensington Gardens. A wonderful little book. Also is Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens, which we've also done here in the study. We've got Never Neverland, Peter Pan and the Lost Children, Old Lukoy, The Marsh King's Daughter, Little Tuck, all from Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. The Little Mermaid, The Snow Queen, Ogier the Dane, Shanganon, King O'Toole, Deirdre, and Pollianus. Castle of Seven Towers by William Morris, The Defense of Guinevere. And then the Brothers Grimm, Rapunzel, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White and Rose Red, Hansel and Gretel, Seven Little Dwarfs, Similar Mountain, Donkey Cabbages, and The Tailor and the Snail. So just a smattering of what we find in the Sleigh's wonderful map. Indeed, we've done lots of those here in the study, and there are so more that we can add. Do you have some favorite mythology or fairy stories in literature or film? If you do, add them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Here we have a little fairy spell so that we can see fairies. Let's read that, and what I will do as we're reading it is use these watercolor pencils from Caran d'Ache. So aquarelle pencils, and color this herb, this magical herb. I think I'll use dark indigo and blue for the flowers, and maybe a little. It's hard to resist that beautiful peacock turquoise kingfisher color. Look at those. We'll use some green was an English mural painter, stained glass artist, illustrator, and wood engraver. He is best known for this, an ancient map of fairyland newly discovered and set forth. And here we find all the characters from legends, myths, and fairy tales. Slay was a member of the Royal Birmingham Society of Artists between 1923 and 28, and founder of the Fairy Investigation Society in 1927. He was especially skilled in wood engraving and soon had commissions illustrating books, including a 2-volume edition of Hans Christian Andersen's Stories and Fairy Tales and George MacDonald's Fantastes, Le Grand Récits Fabliaux, and an edition of the romance of Tristan and Iseult. Slay is most celebrated today for this beautiful ancient map, inspired by all the mythical writings that he had illustrated and read himself. But also, like Tolkien, he was influenced by John Barry's Peter Pan, all of these things having a great impact on his imagination. Romantic medievalism and neo-Gothic was entirely a world peopled by supernatural beings and imaginative journeys. This had been the influences of their childhood, the end of the Victorian Age. Slay was also an author, and his writing changed from the practical to the mythological. He wrote Witchcraft in 1934, The Dryad's Child in 1936, and 2 fantasies for children, The Boy in the Ivy and The Tailor's Friends in 1955 and 56. This map was published in 1918, the year that the Great War ended. And here we can definitely see in fairyland, as in many of these artists of the time and authors, that the fairies and the material become a yearning for a return to that Edwardian innocence, that pre-World War I, the youth that was stolen and destroyed during this very atrocious and horrific war. On John Cruise's website on British fairies, he puts several thoughts forward about the context of Slay's map, one of them being that Edwardian innocence or the desire to return to it, and I'll read you a little bit from his website on British fairies. He quotes Tom Harper, the British Library's antiquarian map curator. Compared with the devastated, bomb-blasted landscape of northern France, this vision of a make-believe land may have seemed a seductive escape for European society, bearing the physical and psychological scars of mass conflict. The map is very much a product of the arts and crafts ideology, which evinced a return to traditional pre-industrial production methods. The ornamentation and typeface are in the style of William Morris's Kelmscott Press. Retrospective stylistic attitude places the map in opposition to a mechanical modernity, which happened to have reached its most destructive pinnacle during the war. Cruise then puts a poem by Rose Amy Fileman as an example. She was a prolific English children's author and lived from 1877 to 1957. and is probably best remembered for her first published work, the poem There Are Fairies at the Bottom of Our Garden, which appeared in May 1917. It's a delightful little poem talking about a little girl seeing fairies, could be a little boy, and imagining that at night the child goes off and becomes one of the fairies, entering in all the frolicsome fun. The next year, 1918, however, Fileman wrote a partner poem for this, called There Used to Be, which stands an affecting antithesis to her previous verse. It goes, "There used to be fairies in Germany, I know, for I've seen them there. What, and oh what were they doing to let things like this? How could it be, and didn't they see that folk were going amiss? There used to be fairies in Germany. The children will look for them still. The flowers, they will say, have all vanished. And where can the fairies be fled that played in the fern? The flowers will return, but I fear that the fairies are dead." Cruz writes further, "The Great War smashed many childhood illusions and security. To some degree it appears that it was the fairies' fault, arising from neglect of and by them. The result has been their extinction, or we can say, the death of childhood and imagination. This map is a blending of fairy tale, myth, fairy lore, and the matter of Britain. Fairyland is an island, mountainous at its two ends, with a lower land bridge joining these. A wall, builded of stars by many elfin emperors in days remote, divides the good and evil halves. The island is littered with symbols indicating inns, fairy shrines and temples, wishing wells, and, most exciting of all, the sites of dwarves' treasures. There are plenty of traditional folklore references as well, and many authorities have argued that the Victorian fairy fascination was a response to disenchantment with their world and an effort to re-enchant it. But by 1918, the need for enchantment was very great indeed. If you take in your right hand a 7-leaved spray of the sacred vervain, in your left hand the stone called Amati, and recite 3 times. This in the fairy language, which appears to be gibberish. If you can make it out, maybe you can put it in the comments, and we will all know how to complete this spell with your eyes closed. And recite this 3 times, and then your eyes be opened, and you will see fairies. Dedicated to Brocastlin Wood and Barbara Grace de Riemer, and to all children old and young who are seeking the passage through the gates of ivory and pearl. I hope you are nice and relaxed and ready for dreamland. I hope you've enjoyed all of the dreamland inspiration that we've had today. It is now time to thank our November patrons of the study. Firstly, thank everyone who has watched this video. Please do like and subscribe to be part of the study community. And if you would like to learn more or support the study, please go over to the study's Patreon site. Our very special study patrons for November: Andreas, thank you, thank you. Ben, thank you, thank you. Bernie, thank you, thank you. David M, thank you, thank you. Joshua, thank you, thank you. Pirate Carrie, thank you, thank you. Romulus, thank you, thank you. Therem, thank you, thank you. And Carman 1000, thank you, thank you. I really do appreciate all of your support, and some of you have been with this study for a very long time. Every bit of your support helps me to continue creating these videos, and I hope to keep doing it for a long time to come. Gently informing you, relaxing you, and putting you to sleep. Be good to yourself. Be kind to others.